Hello YouTubers, hello and welcome back. I haven't been home very long. I've been on the phone trying to get hold of these people. They're unbelievable. I tell you, it's easier to get hold of the Queen than get hold of Yodel. Honest, ridiculous. You want to actually speak to somebody. So you ring them up on the number provided. Bearing in mind there is absolutely nothing on the card anywhere to say where their depot is. Nothing. No address, no postcode, nothing. So you ring the number and you speak to these people, but you get one of those very, very sexy sounding computerized secretary, will say, answering the phone. And she's got a one-track mind. She won't answer any other questions than the one she's been programmed to answer. Like, where's the depot? Doesn't understand any questions at all, other than rearranging your delivery for another day, and that's it. Or arrange to collect it from the depot. But where's the depot? I'm not going to commit to going all the way to Australia to get me parcel. You know, where is the nearest depot? Nothing. So I went on the internet and I found a phone number. I rang the phone number, and after you've argued the toss with the computer secretary, and she finally gives up trying to help you, she finally puts you through to a human being to speak to somebody. And the first time I tried this, whoever it was who was on the end of the phone put the phone down on me. So we had to go through the rigmarole all over again. Finally, I did get to speak to somebody. I was able to rearrange my parcel for my next day off. And, you know, arranged it all. Great. But I was able to speak to somebody. And, you know, you can't speak to anybody human these days. It's these set programmable computer things that you're talking to, operator things. Useless. Absolutely useless. Honestly, it's easier to go and see the Queen. At least you get arrested. At least you get some reaction. Anyway, there's enough on that. I thought you might get a kick out of that. I've calmed it down a bit, mind. But that's the gist of how I had the conversation with the woman on the phone. Just like that, but worse. And it was very nice to her. She was very helpful. And we've managed to rearrange the parcel. Brilliant. Next thing, last night, before I went to bed, you know how I like to potter around, I decided I wanted to go to the next stage for my isolation. What I wanted to start fitting up the things that I want to see when it all finally goes together. So, this is nearly all my parts have come from Bits Box. There's a whole bag of them there. This is a neon light in there, and if you look very carefully, I'm going to try and show you. Just a second. Right, you can just about see that on my phone. Inside there, you've got your main lead going up on one side. There's the resistor, and you can just about make it out inside there. There's the neon bulb, the bottom of it, and the other wire comes down the other side to the other leg. Right? Just to make sure. Hang on a minute. Did you see all of that? Show you again just to make sure. You know. And they'll all be the same. It's just different coloured plastic. That's all, to give you the different colours. Right? And the idea is that just cut this bit here for a minute. Hang on. The idea is that, as you can appreciate, there's a switch. There's the fuse, which is on one side, basically set up as if it was an ammeter, basically across one side of the line, it's across the negative side. And then we've got our transformer. So what we decided to do was to put our neon light from the fuse side between the fuse and the transformer itself. So you've got switch, fuse, neon light, transformer. And what do you think happened to the fuse, little holder? It went bang. And there was bits of glass everywhere inside. When I took the little cap off, all I could pour out of it was bits of glass and the two ends. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the way things are set up now, it's working fine. No problem at all. Right? So, what I think we need to do, I'll never give up, what I think we need to do is, instead of connecting it between the switch and the transformer, because you've got to remember, you've got the power coming into the switch, you turn the switch on, and you've got all that rush of current suddenly going into the transformer. And what's the first thing it sees before it gets to the transformer? This little neon light. And of course, bang went the fuse. So the experiment would be, because remember there's a neon light already in the switch, and there's a neon light at this end in the switch on the Variac when it's turned on. But I wanted a neon light to tell me when the transformer is on. Now what we need to do, I think my mistake is, this is the main wire going to that box there. This is how we got it at the moment, right? This is not how it's going to be when it's finalised. This is how we got it at the minute. So, this neon light, as far as I'm concerned, needs to be across somewhere up here, up this end, away from the transformer, not necessarily between the two. I think that was a bit of a stupid thing for me to do. Okay, obviously I insulated it. I mean, there was no shorts across the connections. I mean, yes, I have used red wire. One should be red, one should be black. There's no positive and negative. It's just put it in. It doesn't make any difference whether if the resistor sees the plus first or the other side receives the plus first. It's the same. It's the same thing. So that's the next thing that I want to try, is cut this in further up, right? I've got plenty of fuses. I don't mind how many of them I blow. I don't want to blow too many, of course. But now the next thing for the isolation that we need to try, we need to see wired up. Bear in mind I'm down on the floor again. Is this little baby here is going on. This is for the American voltage. Just to remind you, it's 240, 250, the same as the other one, but its secondary is 115 volts out, and the amperage on it is 5.2 amps. And I'm presuming that the wiring is wired up the same as that, so we won't go by the diagram or the writing, as it were. We'll just go by the diagram, and then that is then I mean, this is going to have an ammeter on it, I think, because I'm going to put on it eventually, excuse me a minute, this is a twin socket American socket. Okay, I think it's only switched on one side. It doesn't matter. There's the cat meowing again. I'll tell you, once I start filming, she starts. So this is going to potentially take two items, right? So make sure that we don't overcook our transformer. We need to at least have a 5 amp ammeter on it, so that we know how much load we're putting on it. And I also want the same for the other one over there. I want an amp meter on that as well, so we can see what load we're putting on the transformer at any one time, and we can see whether it's too high or too low, and if we see it too high, obviously we turn it off. That is more or less the setup, and also this one will also have its own fuse separate. Now I think, common sense, that this transformer, if it was connected in with that transformer at the same time, would be too much. It would certainly start blowing fuses. I think it's a stupid thing to try. I think what we'll do is we'll have a separate switch. We'll have it wired into there, but this will have its own switch. And if we can get away with using the neon lights, the American voltage light will either be yellow or green. The UK voltage will be red, and the others will be either, I might choose green because green happens to be my favourite colour. I want this whole thing wired and working before we start building any boxes. I want to see everything working the way I want it. There'll be light bulbs wired in and everything, and switches, the lot. Everything's going to be wired up first. When we see that it's all okay, and we see that it's functioning the way we want, that's how we'll have it, and then we will know what we need to make. Okay. Now the next point, the next thing I want to talk to you about. Do you remember? Pardon me, I do apologise. That wasn't meant to. I hope I can cut that out. Right. Do you remember when we replaced? Just get a pointer and a light. Do you remember when we replaced that capacitor? Do you remember? It wasn't that long ago. You should do. See that one there? Remember the black, the English Black Beauty, we'll call it. It had this wire here. You can see me moving it, or this wire here. One of these two wires. I don't know which one it was. Actually, I think it was the grey wire underneath, which comes from this socket here. This is a transformer, this one here, and I think this wire got warm, and I'm wondering if that's the reason why that happened. I think it might be something to do with the this switch here being on the wrong voltage. You remember? The moment it's set for 245, it was set for 225. I didn't know if the camera caught that, and I think it was set like that just to remind you what I thought, that the radio was appearing a bit dead, so to make it more lively they put it on that to make it more lively, to get more work out the radio, make it work better. Just a sec, just to give you a bit of a look at this. You've got two lines. You've got one across the bottom and one across further up the top where two wires went. There's two marks actually. I remembered one. There's two. So I reckon them wires got quite warm to be able to melt the plastic or whatever the material is made of. And that goes to show you how well made this radio is, because I don't think many radios would have stood up to that for very long. And we don't know how long this radio's been going like this, do we? We don't know. Zoom out a little bit. So that's the plan. That is the plan, how I think we should go. Now, one other point I wanted to make. This is like a general thing. If any of you are working on these radios, see these capacitors, these waxy capacitors. These are the remains of them. I must have been scratching my nose because yesterday, there was a very sore bit on the end of my nose. And it was after touching these caps, these paper waxy capacitors. Not a good idea. So avoid touching it anywhere with your hands when you've been messing with these things, because they're not very nice. Alright, so that's the video started. I'm going to start looking at this radio again, do a bit more bits and pieces. Okay, I think that's it for the moment. And as far as 5-amp fuses is concerned, we've got plenty. I mean, we have got plenty. Also, I've got on order some super glue to repair some valves. I've been meaning to get some for a while, but never getting around to it. Right, so we've done enough waffling on, let's get on with it. Right, the next thing. This is more for all our new subscribers. Those of you who may have seen some of the videos on this. It's my very first detailed restoration, and we had to come to a halt because we started to get out of my depth, as it were, because there was things needed doing that I couldn't do. We didn't have any VHF, because this is VHF. We've got the same setup, or very similar setup to the other radio, because this is also a heterodyne, and it's got AM and FM stages. Okay, and we tried our best to work on this, but my problems have been that I started to struggle a little bit on certain things. So for those of you who remember this radio and have asked, I know Doug's asked, what's happened to this? It's still here. We still got it. As you can see, we did some experimenting with some diodes, tagged on different diodes. I do remember just about. We got so far with this radio, and we just seemed to, we just weren't getting anywhere with it. And a lot of the problem was we couldn't trace where the FM or the AM was not getting to. So now we've got this new device, should be here sometime this week with a bit of luck. At some point we will be getting back to this radio. So now I have made a public announcement to you guys. Still works, the same as it did before. We always had that problem when we had issues when we first turned it on. I don't expect this to be any different. So all I need to do is to take out these diodes, the ones I put in, to try and put these other diodes, I think they're OA 79s, back. It's best basically tag them on back to where they belong, and that's it. So what we'll do when we get our FM AM stereo signal generator, we can find out where we haven't got signal getting through. Now I was more or less replacing most of the resistors in here, even if they were slightly out. Of course, nowadays I know a lot better, but we didn't do a thorough detailed check on these resistors values, because I found it very fiddly to get into it. But it will become easier to me now because of the work we've done on the Murphy radio, the one over there. So it's just to remind you guys that this radio is still alive. As you can see, we still got some Hunts capacitors in here. There's one there. There's another one over here. I wasn't quite sure on what capacitors to use to change out the existing ones, because these, believe it or not, they're high voltage. What, in a 9-volt radio? When this one here, 150 volt. It's just because they used what was available. They had probably loads of these for the mains radios, and as there was space under the chassis, they used them. So we've got 2 of those left under here, and we've got one on top, which is that one there. But like I say, we came to a stop because we were basically clutching at wires and getting nowhere. Now we've got this other device, we should be able to trace our fault and learn a bit more. Right, so this is just a bits and bobs video, that's all it is. Just telling you about things that's coming up, what we've been doing. That needs to go back on there again because you went back inside this box. You know, because there's some of you who you know wasn't following me before, you know, and don't know about this radio. You know, we did some work in here. We had these transistors out. We tested them out of circuit, put them back. We replaced capacitors that we burnt up with an iron, because these polyester ones, the polystyrene ones, you've got to be very careful with them. Put too much heat on them, they change value, and when they change value, that value stays. So anything that we need to do, like alignment or injecting signals and things to find out where we've got what and what we haven't got, should be able to do that now, hopefully, fingers crossed. Alright, so I hope that's of help to you guys to see what we were doing. The new ones that don't know us, don't know when we was working on this. I mean, I did struggle. I'm not going to say things were hunky-dory, because they, you know, we did struggle with this. I hold my hands up and admit it. But I've never ever worked on electronics and filmed it for everyone to see. You know, it's something that a lot of people will find tricky to come to grips with, you know. Mistakes as well. Not many people share their mistakes. Some do, but not many. You know, get embarrassed because they've made a boo-boo or something. We all make boo-boos. It's just one of them things. So, just to remind you about this chassis, for those of you who don't know what it was, you'll see the previous videos. It's still on the website. There's quite a few of them. His Master's Voice, made in Great Britain, and it was a model 1421, a serial number 3200. That's the radio. And the case, believe it or not, that's it there. So we've still got the case, and the speaker is inside it, nice and safe. So, you know, just to give you some idea what we're doing, what we haven't done, and whatever. Next we'll be working on that, and we'll be working on setting up the rest of the isolation and what we want. Now the other thing as well is I thought I'd show you, as this is a bits and pieces video, and also we have this isolation transformer. This is obviously a lot smaller. I don't know what the amperage is on it. It's not much. I think it's only good for an amp on the 250 winding, probably 1.5 on the lower windings. Not very much, but enough. It's enough. But on this transformer, if we needed it, we've got 200 and 220. But I don't think we will need it. I think this will be surplus to requirements. This was the transformer that I lost. I couldn't find it anywhere. And I've been hunting for a long time, many months, trying to find this. Couldn't find it anywhere. It was on here, on the bench. But when I got the ceiling came down and made all that mess, you know, made a hell of a mess. if you remember me telling you about it. This went into a box, and that was it. That was the last we saw of it. Well, that's what happened, but I didn't know it was in a box. I just didn't know where it was. Anyway, I think that's enough. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you later. Thank you very much. Bye now.